having this full circle moment, it's sweet in a lot of different ways for me. First of all, I've learned a lot throughout every single year of my career, but there's something special about returning to the place where I started, the place that built my own career, the place that I learned everything that I know about working with students and leading and being a part of a faculty. And so for me, there's just some extra meaning to doing the work there because the culture is familiar to me, it's home to me. And frankly, some of the extra benefits are that, I do a lot of work in the community, and so many of the leaders I work with, the people I see in the community are my own alumni. And by that, I mean students I taught who are now, 15, 20 years into their careers, and they are just the most remarkably talented people. And I'm genuinely happy to see them. And so for me, that's sort of the unexpected beauty of the role I hold and where I hold it, because I could have been president any number of places, but returning to the place that built my career and that I love and that I believe in and that I genuinely value what we do, it's pretty great.
I have the pleasure now of being joined by the president of NKU, Dr. Katie Short-Thompson. Really, really happy to have you here. Very excited to talk to you about all the things that NKU does. I want to start off, though, with a sort of a long view from your point of view. You've been in the driver's seat at NKU for a few years now. What is your sort of 30,000-foot take on the state of higher education in this region? How are we looking?
I think we're looking good, Jack, and thanks for having me. Just first of all, there's a high demand for what we do, and so having workforce-aligned education that's affordable, that's relational, and that really works hard to connect students to opportunities upon graduation, it's exactly what people are looking for. And so I do think that there's great demand for what NKU offers, and frankly, in greater Cincinnati, we have such different offerings, and that's actually ideal for the residents of our region have choices.
Yeah, being a university that is trying to train, future workforces in a city where there's so many big companies that are headquartered here, and in addition to the expansion of manufacturing that we've seen over the last couple of years, it's a buffet in terms of job variety that people could be going to school for.
Absolutely. If you were to give me any number of places to live and to lead, this is a prime place to do it, to have so many different people coming out of high schools and wanting to transfer into the university to then pursue a bachelor's or a master's or a doctoral degree. There's just a lot of great, smart people right here in our midst who want to be on campus learning with us.
Well, and having read about, some of the things that have happened under your time leading the university, some of the changes to make things easier for people and to make the school itself more attractive, which obviously is an important part of the job, doing the three-state tuition plan. That's a really big deal right there.
Thank you. Well, for me, it's all about access. I have a real passion for opening up the doors of access to the university, making sure that people can see themselves here. And frankly, I think that universities can be complicated, cumbersome places to access and to understand how to get in contact with folks and how to apply and how to navigate those first steps of showing interest. And I thought, if I can make it easier and clearer, then that's a win. And so I think just the tuition rate alone, there are two rates. One is in-state, and that's for everyone in Kentucky, Ohio, and Indiana, no matter where you live in those states. And it's very affordable. And the other rate is out-of-state, and it's literally any other state other than Kentucky, Ohio, or Indiana, including international students. And so even that is very affordable compared to our competitors. So we're really proud of simplifying things and providing greater access.
Well, and speaking of simplifying things, you even went a step further. The application process is what, minimal? You got rid of it altogether?
If you can click a link, you can get into the university. So it's really the innovation of one of my colleagues. It's called the Direct Admit program. And it quite literally comes from getting an email address or just going to our website. And if you have a 275 and above, you're eligible to be admitted to the university. No essay, no application fee. We've really simplified it. And in case you don't know, a lot of people who are college-going age hate forms. And so not having them have to fill out one more form when frankly, we know everything about them already. We all do data buys and have a lot of information about students.
Well, and the idea of making the application process easier, people who were watching the last segment saw the stats on average GPA and 75% freshman retention rate. It doesn't seem as though that step toward making things more practical has had a negative effect on the student population.
Not at all. Actually, our students are performing better than ever. So it is remarkable. Just if you simplify the on-ramp, it just means that they can pay attention to other things and get acclimated more quickly.
Is there a reason why you don't think that other universities have taken those specific steps that you've done, especially around here, doing the 3-state all-in-one pricing and making the application process way more straightforward?
It's a good question. I think in some cases it's just change and not wanting to change from the practices of, yesteryear. And, I do think that some other schools are looking at directed bid or similar programs like that. I know that the state of Kentucky is actually looking at having a number of other institutions follow suit.
Okay. Yeah, how much do you do, like, comparing and contrasting to your colleagues, your professional colleagues? I don't mean other presidents, but universities in general, because I think that NKU exists in a really interesting space. I remember reading an article a few years ago about Microsoft, and the writer was saying that Microsoft is functioning so much on the practical side of things, where it's not charging top dollar like Apple does for everything, and it's not this like bargain basement chintzy stuff that's going to wear out in a couple of years. And I really think that NKU is sort of a metaphor for that, where there's such a focus on practicality and affordability and ease of getting in.
Right. So I would say that, first of all, we all study each other.
Okay.
I think in part so that we know how we can be differentiated from our competitors. At the end of the day, I think of NKU as a real workhorse in the region. And so, we work really hard to provide affordable, high-quality education that's very aligned with the workforce, so that investment in education pays off with lucrative careers at the end. We've been ranked the best return on investment by the Wall Street Journal for the 3rd year in a row. That should tell you a lot about where we compare and how we compare to other higher ed institutions in terms of affordability and what you get out of it. When you leave here, you find yourself in a high-paying job that's in demand.
Yeah, because being able to sell that ROI to prospective students, to prospective parents,
right,
that might be writing a lot of checks at a time that's, it's really turbulent. If it's a first-time college student, the parents, again, making the application process easier, that's one less headache for these parents that are dealing with stuff for the first time. And if you're able to show that it's going to be worth your money to do this, like, that's a huge selling point, right?
Absolutely. And as a mom of 3 kids, 2 have graduated and are already working, and 1 is a senior. I can tell you that all of us parents are building spreadsheets and analyzing the options together with our students and trying to determine what's worth it and what makes sense for us. And so we're just really the best return on investment in town. And frankly, the experience that our students have, listen to our alumni and hear them rave about the experience, how NKU changed their life, how they opened their eyes to the unique talents that the students had, and then stayed in their lives for the rest of their career. Our faculty are really student-centered, care deeply about the students themselves and as whole people, not just students. So I often say you get more than you pay for at NKU, and it's absolutely true.
Yeah, again, the application process and the similarity in the tuition now. But the other sort of theme on all that is graduating students into a field and having them gone through a curriculum of education that's actually going to be practical and useful for them.
That's right. So one of the things I spend a lot of time thinking about is the sectors that we really need to be aligned with at the university. One of the nice things about when I've arrived as president is there's a lot of research that the chamber has done, our economic development engines and growth organizations have done, and there is great alignment and agreement on what sectors are poised to grow over the next decade and how much of a workforce shortage we actually have here in this region. That's not actually a good thing to have a shortage. So in my mind, I have to work really hard to make sure that my colleges and their departments and programs are very clearly aligned with what's needed of us. And so I often say that we don't have a person to waste. We have to make sure that each graduate is studying the different concepts and skills so that when they leave, that they're well equipped to succeed. And that might mean that they have experiential learning, internships, co-ops, other experiences while they're students to make sure that they're really well equipped to succeed once they graduate.
Yeah, that's got to be a little bit of a challenge of running a university, right? Because you've got, young people in their late teens and early 20s who really are still trying to figure themselves out, to figure their lives out. That's part of the college experience, but then also wanting to, again, have that ROI to be able to show parents that this is going to be worth your time. There is going to be a worthwhile end point to land on. That's a strange balance, right?
Absolutely. So one of the things that I've been really invested in is building a system to allow our students to have a deep understanding of their field and to practice it in a variety of different ways on campus and off campus. We've innovated something called the Norse Network Hub, and the goal of that is to create a really simple front door for employers to access NKU talent in the different colleges. So we have an easy front door now where employers can reach out and say what they're looking for.
Oh, wow.
And then it's both high tech. We have a repository or a database that shares the information that they're looking for, the folks that they've hired, how many interns or co-ops or people they've placed. So we get the history of what they're looking for and what skill sets they need. And then we make those warm introductions with the colleges so that we make sure that all of the different colleges' skill sets are being represented, because it's easy to know where to go for accountants. You go to the accounting department. Sure. It's not as easy if it's a broader skill set used by a number of different majors at the university. So we're really excited about partnering with many different companies and really making it easier for them to access talent and for our students to know what opportunities are available to them as well.
Well, and looking at, I mentioned it in the Big Bite, the top majors at NKU, I think, are maybe some of the most practical and constantly needed majors in college, period. Business administration, elementary education, these are all things that feel like they check every box at any school.
And by design. It is our mission to provide access and then to provide workforce alignment. That is literally why we exist. So we are delivering on our promise.
So as far as maybe some newer programs go, I saw an announcement that you guys made about Rogers Scholars. What is that program that you guys are doing?
Sure. It's a partnership with an organization that we're providing some scholarship dollars to live here, and it's for folks from southern and eastern Kentucky, from rural counties within the Commonwealth. It just provides them with a new opportunity to save some money by living with us on campus, and they're high-performing leaders in high school in their own county. So we're excited to welcome them to northern Kentucky.
Yeah, being able to draw from elsewhere in the state, I feel like maybe there's an assumption that, and probably a bulk of the students do come from this sort of greater Cincinnati area, but the idea that kids from eastern Kentucky, from western Kentucky, from Indianapolis, from other parts of Ohio, this is right in the middle of the bullseye.
You'd be surprised at how many students come from just outside of the northern Kentucky area in Kentucky. So actually with the direct admit and with the way that we've recruited lately, we've found far more students from outlying counties and different parts of the state. So that has been sort of an unexpected surprise. To be candid, oftentimes we think of recruitment almost like an open house party. You never know who's going to actually come until they show up. And so we're always delighted to welcome new Norse from everywhere.
In terms of other new things that are on the way, how excited are you for this Commonwealth Center that's going up in Covington? This is a huge collaboration.
It's fantastic. It's very exciting. And in fact, I don't live far from there, and I walk my dog past it on a regular basis. And now we have a big hole. And so a great, beautiful building will rise out of that hole, and it will be the new home for the Chase College of Law. And to say that it will be perfectly placed.
Yeah, sorry, that's just, we got a picture of, I think that might be you at the groundbreaking.
That's right, absolutely.
And what that building's going to look like. Do you think that other buildings in the neighborhood are going to be, their moms are going to be jealous about how this building is doctors and lawyers in one place?
It's going to be a beauty. It'll be a wonderful opportunity to have us housed right next to the courthouses and right by 25 major law firms in the area. Chase College of Law has a long history and, frankly, started in Covington, and so it's returning home. It will allow our lawyers and our partners and our students and our faculty to work closely together and really develop the next generation of lawyers. So we're excited about, just how relevant they'll be in that neighborhood. We've always had a major outreach mission to the college, and that will just accelerate that. And the other thing I would share is that we've climbed 30 spots in the rankings in the last 5 years as a law school. And this will only accelerate that because a beautiful new home that's perfectly well placed is only an advantage for this.
And that's in such a bustling, like growing area right there in Covington, closer to the riverfront. The Northern Kentucky Convention Center's right there.
That's right.
And the idea that this was funded, this isn't taxpayer dollars in the sense of the way we normally see construction. This is the state that put this together because they want to see these two schools team up.
Absolutely. It will really build into economic development for the area. It's a really plum assignment for the university to have that space and to be able to partner throughout the region. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, that's extremely exciting. We do need to take a break, but I do want to ask about one other thing before we go. A big hire that you guys recently announced, Mike Odom as your new athletic director. You guys have to be extremely excited about that.
I literally could not be more excited to welcome him to my team. He's my final cabinet member to add to my team. And Mike brings such a wealth of experience and just the right attitude and skill set. And he's just a wonderful all-around person. This region will love Mike Odom.
Well, and if you're talking about growing, academically for the practicality of certain jobs and growth industries there, also being able to grow for recruitment and player attraction in, this age of NIL, having an AD that is so well thought of, that has to be a doubly exciting thing.
Absolutely. Somebody who's come from Creighton, and also, you think about the fact that he was at Wake Forest and NC State. He has a wealth of experience. He's really come up through, ticket revenue, and he's worked really hard in a number of different places with just the right experiences and just the right skills. I know that already in 8 days, we've seen a difference in the kinds of things we're considering at the university.
Oh, look at that. That's a tease for things yet to come. That is a tease going into our commercial break. We'll be back with more. Using your time right now in August. This is summer vacation, right? There's probably not a whole lot that you have to worry about right now because it's summer.
Not exactly. Often people think that I have the summer off. This is when we are in crush mode of just planning to launch the entire school year.
Yeah.
So
you guys excited? I mean, obviously excited for the fall.
Yeah.
Is Victor Fest coming up soon?
It is. So, this is the final countdown before we have about 12 days, I think it is now, before students return for class. They move in just a few days before that. But all the activities, the students, bring the campus back to life, and there's nothing like it when they're on campus.
And in that vein, I wanted to ask you, because this is something I think you've got a unique perspective on. You were, I believe, appointed to be the president of NKU in 2023, which means that you were sort of there right after the height of COVID had hit, and everybody's lives got messed with, college students' lives, especially those who were in the midst of their college careers or looking to graduate, everything got turned upside down. What has your perspective on that been now in the aftermath of that? How did you see things change for good or ill?
Well, I think COVID has really changed everyone's lives in that we all went to our corners for at least about a year and then have little by little and in different ways found our way back. And so I think that, there are a couple impacts that I would speak of. One would be, academically, we've seen some impacts on students learning who were essentially teaching themselves from their homes for at least a few months of that time. Yeah. And obviously that leaves some effects that we are still working to address and make sure that students know what they need to know to continue to make progress throughout their degrees. Secondly, I think in terms of engagement, that the norms of engagement changed while people were, in their corners, and we've had to sort of re-educate students on how to attend things and socialize with each other and just get engaged for their own good, and having more time on campus with one another because, again, a lot of people, they scattered, and now it's all about bringing them back because there's benefit from being in that experience together. It's not just about an education, it's about an experience.
Well, and that's part of, capital E education in terms of learning things academically, but then also learning about yourself. And I know it gets into some sort of flowery territory there, but that's a really important part of people growing up and learning in general.
Absolutely. There's also the applying of what you're learning, right. And let's be honest, it's that well-rounded college education that comes from the experience of being involved in leadership activities and other engagements on campus. So, we're really emphasizing the importance of that right now and wooing our students back into some of those either co-curricular or extracurricular activities.
Your time here at NKU is a little bit of a full circle journey for you professionally, because you were at the university before and then you took some time away and then came back. What was the journey like that?
Yeah, so I started at the university as a faculty member in 1996, and I spent 14 years at NKU as a faculty member in communication. During that time, I worked my way up the ladder, and when I left, I was the department chair of the Department of Communication. And typically, within universities, if you want to keep climbing the rungs, at some point, it's not uncommon to leave to find other opportunities. Sure. So I'm actually a UC graduate, and after I graduated from UC, I started my career at NKU, and then after NKU faculty time, I became a dean at the University of Cincinnati. So I returned to my alma mater for 7 years, and I was the dean of UC Blue Ash College, and I loved that experience and learned a lot about things in addition to the academic. After that, I went to a place called Hope College in Holland, Michigan, and I served as provost, or the chief academic officer.
Yeah, what was the attraction for that? That's a big jump.
Yeah, it was a big jump, and it was a real change because I had been only in public universities, and then this was a private college. Frankly, I knew of Holland from vacation, and so many people have left Cincinnati in the summertime to go up to this beautiful place in the world that's right in Southwest Michigan, right on Lake Michigan. Gorgeous place. If you like dunes and woods and lake, and so I just spent 4 years in that gorgeous place. I will say that gorgeous place also has feet of snow every winter, and for 6 months on end we would have literally snow up to our kneecaps. And so there's something to be said about summer in Michigan, not so much winter for this Cincinnati native. And so about 4 years in, I actually became a bit homesick and was really eager to return back to the Queen City. I'm again a native Cincinnatian, and there was an opportunity at Breakthrough Cincinnati, a nonprofit that focused on high-need, high-potential students who were in middle and high school, getting them ready for college and career success. So that all fell well within my passion, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try something different, and I'm going to return home and lead this organization. I learned a lot. I got a lot out of it, and just about 2 years into it, this position of president of NKU came open. And if I'm honest with you, it's the job that I always wanted.
Sure.
Though you can't just order a job like, you might order food at a restaurant. The timing is everything, and the fit is everything. And so when the position became open, I just said, I have to give this a whirl. I have to apply, and the rest is history.
Well, and the timing for you as a person specifically, having that professional growth of coming up in the faculty here and really sort of understanding the nuts and bolts of the university, and then doing things with UC Blue Ash for a bit, and then heading up to work in a private school up in a different state altogether, and then working in a non-academic setting for a while. That is a way to check a lot of other boxes to bring all that experience then back now as your time as president.
Right. There's no question that having this full circle moment, it's sweet in a lot of different ways for me. First of all, I've learned a lot throughout every single year of my career, but there's something special about returning to the place where I started, the place that built my own career, the place that I learned everything I know about working with students and leading and being a part of a faculty. And so for me, there's just some extra meaning to doing the work there because the culture is familiar to me, it's home to me. And frankly, some of the extra benefits are that, I do a lot of work in the community, and so many of the leaders I work with, the people I see in the community are my own alumni. And by that, I mean students I taught who are now, 15, 20 years into their careers, and they are just the most remarkably talented people. And I'm genuinely happy to see them. And so for me, that's sort of the unexpected beauty of the role I hold and where I hold it, because I could have been president any number of places, but returning to the place that built my career and that I love and that I believe in and that I genuinely value what we do, it's pretty great.
Well, and learning the things that you learned by being someplace else for a while. What is something from Hope College that you brought back now that maybe isn't a direct thing that you incorporate into your time here at NKU, but is influencing the way you lead that you wouldn't have had you not gone up there otherwise?
It's a great question. There were many different qualities that are similar across all of the institutions where I've worked. What I will say is that I have much more appreciation for a public institution and its value. So, I will say that, when you look at what our tuition rate is, it's about $11,000 before you even have scholarships, on that account. So in other words, you pay less than $11,000 at NKU. You compare that to Hope College, where the tuition is like $46,000 before you even start adding in room and board. Just that value difference is huge. And what's interesting is NKU has often touted itself as a private school education at a public school cost. So I actually saw that play out, where you still have small class sizes with faculty who care in both of those places, but you just get a lot more for your money at NKU. You can literally pay for 4 years of tuition at NKU compared to 1 year at that private school. And that's an enormous savings. I don't know about you, but I didn't have any student loan debt when I graduated from college, and I'm really grateful for that. It is still possible to be in that same situation at NKU now.
Yeah,
that is not true elsewhere.
And that's a really rare thing to be able to say. I was fortunate that my dad bought a lot of savings bonds when he was in the Navy. Being able to say that is not a common thing to be able to say. Do you wish, because the idea that most students commute, is that an area maybe where you see an opportunity for growth, having more on-campus students?
Yeah, I think there's room for us to grow our residential student population. The truth is, a residential student population outperforms those who commute in that they're more engaged. And the more engaged you are, the less likely you are to drop out, the more likely you are to benefit in all the different ways, because there's so many extra things you can be involved in on campus. I will say, though, that NKU does fill that certain need for folks who might be older and have no interest in living on campus. And so we do always respond to those we serve, and that's our students. And some make sense to live on campus, others don't. And so we're there to meet all of their needs.
Asking about what you learned at going to Hope College and bringing that back, what about for you as the mother of college students, both graduated and in the midst? How has that informed your leadership of NKU?
It's a great question, and I have to say that my children are constantly asked a zillion questions by their president mother. I'm always asking them at the dinner table.
That's called market research.
Absolutely. It's a sample of 3, but I'm going with it. And so I will say that they're good sports about it, but they're often telling me, just through their own experiences, about what isn't clear or what they didn't understand or what they didn't know how to do. And they are the children of a well-educated mom and dad. So I always think of them and what's not clear to them, how much less clear it must be to our first generation college students, of which we have 42% of our student population. So in other words, I always am thinking, how can I make the pathway clearer? How can we communicate better to our incoming students about what to do and what to expect? And, frankly, there are just a lot of things about college going that we have to translate to those who are coming in. So I always think what's common and routine to us is novel to those who are new to our campus. And I'm always thinking, as a communicator, how can we really make it simple and break it down? Make sure that the students know. How can we make sure that the parents and the families know? So, for example, we now do something called Parent University, where we go and we partner with the different county schools and have meetings with not just the students, but their families, so that they can listen and learn from those of us who do it for a living, and absolutely make it easier to navigate.
No, that's super helpful. And I would think that your background in communication has played a really, as much as people like to goof on communications majors, look at this, that plays a huge role in what you're doing as the leader of a university like that. I think it's tremendous.
I can't think of a more important thing than to communicate well, because if people don't understand, they're going to miss a lot of really important opportunities.
Dr. Thompson, I couldn't agree more. Communication is an extremely important skill professionally. I'm glad that we both got the memo about wearing NKU colors today.
Twinning.
That's important. We have a theme thing going on in the show, and that's important too. Dr. Katie Short Thompson is the president of Northern Kentucky University. Really appreciate your time coming on and talking about everything that NKU has to offer. Best of luck in the fall semester.
Thank you. Good to be with you, Jack.
Glad to have you here.